It's a weird feeling when something you've been clamoring for years finally happens and now you just don't know what to do with yourself. In case you haven't heard, the Buffalo Bills have fired head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons with the team. Right off the bat, let me be very clear McDermott is not a bad coach, but sometimes a good coach just isn't the right coach. 9 years ago, Sean McDermott was a good coach and the right coach. And for all the heat McDermott is catching, I want to remind everyone that it wasn't always this way. When McDermott was hired, this franchise was a mess. Chan Gailey, Doug Marrone, Rex Ryan, Anthony Lynn for half the season. This is what we were dealing with before McDermott came in. Now, if it sounds like I'm against the Bills' decision to fire McDermott, that is the furthest thing from the truth. But everything surrounding the firing of McDermott is very, very frustrating as a Bills fan. And now that I've had a little time to get over the Denver loss and more time alone with my thoughts, I need to speak my mind. It starts before Sean McDermott's first regular season. When he was hired here, Doug Whaley was still the GM, but Sean McDermott would be given full control over the 2017 draft, as Doug Whaley was essentially a dead man walking at that point. In the 2017 draft, Sean McDermott was the one calling the shots, and he selected three cornerstones of this Bills franchise going into their future. Trey White, Dion Dawkins, and Matt Milano were all Sean McDermott selections. And don't even get me started on the Bills trading back with the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be who he is today if he didn't go to Kansas City and Andy Reid. After the draft, the Bills would fire Doug Whaley and hire Brandon Beane, and this would truly be the start of a new era in Buffalo as we know it. The Bills would make the playoffs in the first season of the McDermott Beane era, which would end one of the longest playoff droughts in American sports history at the time, as the Bills had gone 17 years without making it to the dance. Even though the Bills made the playoffs, that wasn't the most important thing that would happen that year. Thanks to Sean McDermott trading back in the 2017 drafts with the Chiefs, the Bills would have the draft capital to go out and get their franchise quarterback, our glorious king, Josh Allen. Fast forward to 2019, and this is where the Buffalo Bills upswing would begin. 2019-20, the Bills would go 10-6 and make the playoffs, but lose to the Houston Texans in the wild card. Back then, and even still now, that loss did not fall on Sean McDermott. 2020-2021 would be the year of Josh Allen. He would explode into an MVP caliber quarterback we all know and love today, and he would bring the Bills all the way to the AFC Championship game where inevitably they would lose to Kansas City, but the future was bright. 2021-2022 would be the year many people and Bills fans would start to have some discontent for Sean McDermott. Without reliving too much past trauma, the Bills would lose to Kansas City in the divisional round after one of the most heinous and downright deplorable acts of defensive malpractice was put forth by Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott. 2022-23, the Bills would get blown out at home by the Bengals in the divisional round. 23-24, they would lose to the Chiefs in the divisional round again. And 24-25, they would lose in the conference finals to the Kansas City Chiefs yet again. And for those of you counting at home, that's 0-4 against the same damn team. I could go into heavy detail about every single one of those losses, and while the end results of those games were frustrating, they all led to this moment, and each one of them hammered a nail into Sean McDermott's coffin, so to speak. The first playoff loss to Houston and the first loss to Kansas City, in hindsight, was the tip of the mountain for Sean McDermott. Nobody blamed McDermott for those losses, and the thought process was that everything would be uphill from there. But from that point on, McDermott would become a victim of his own success. Because no matter what he did, if the end result wasn't a Super Bowl, it was a failed season. 2021 and the 13-second disaster. 2022, 13-3, all for the defense to die due to injuries and Ken Dorsey just to be Ken Dorsey. 2023, the Bills were 6-6 at one point. Then after turning it around, they would still lose to the Chiefs again. And Sean McDermott called that stupid fake punt in his own territory to Damar Hamlin. 2024, the Bills defense gave up 32 points to Kansas City and the Bills lost again. Sean McDermott deserves all the flowers and credit for turning this franchise from a laughingstock to a juggernaut. He deserves his respect for the part he played in developing Josh Allen into the quarterback he is today. And as I said in the intro, he's not a bad coach, but he's no longer the right coach for this organization. In my opinion, This loss to Denver showcased all the flaws of this Bills team, and honestly, I don't care who you want to pin the blame on for what happened, whether it's Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, Joe Brady, or Josh Allen. The fact of the matter is, we lost. So, let's talk about it. It's tied 10-10, 29 seconds to go in the first half. Bo Nix throws a dime to Lil Jordan Humphrey for the touchdown. Why was Darnell Savage in the game at safety over Cam Lewis? I don't know. But I speak for everyone when I say, what the heck was Darnell Savage thinking? It was a horrible read by Savage, and that falls on McDermott because he put him in that position. Then, with 16 seconds left to go, the Bills get the ball back on their own 30. They have no timeouts, yet decide to run a play? For the record, what Allen did was stupid, but why did they put him in that position? The risk to reward ratio is just a joke. Denver is one of the best defenses in the NFL. Vance Joseph is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. You had no timeouts. What did you think you could do with 16 seconds left? Fast forward to a minute to go in the fourth quarter, and Dane Jackson is forced into action, and on the very first play, he's in. Denver goes after him and scores a touchdown on him on a simple go route. It's football 101 that when a cornerback comes in cold, the offense always attacks him. Why would you not have safety help over the top of him? Why are you running man coverage with a minute to go with Dane Jackson in the game? Do you trust Dane Jackson that much? It was a great throw by Bo Nix and Marvin Mims Jr., but that's just a decision I can't get behind. Whether it's fair or not, Sean McDermott is considered a defensive minded head coach, and what your defense does will always be a reflection of you for better or for worse. Unfortunately for McDermott, his defenses haven't been able to get it done when it matters. If we're going to blame the offensive struggles on Josh Allen or Joe Brady, then we have to blame the defensive struggles on Sean McDermott. Now, I know there was more to the game than just what I pointed out, and McDermott's defense did get a stop in overtime to give the ball back to Josh Allen, and I don't want to get into whether or not it was a catch. What I want to point out is these are moments where the head coach and general manager didn't put this team in the best position to win. I want to share this post if anyone hasn't seen it already, and this to me is what got to Bills fans and to ownership. McDermott did a lot of things right, but it's this right here. This is all that was needed to justify letting go of McDermott. The fact that when it mattered most, when all eyes were on the Bills just couldn't get it done. That brings us to where we are now. The Bills, off this playoff loss to Denver, part ways with McDermott, and I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I'm a tad shocked, but overall, I gotta be honest, I'm just numb. Since this is my video, I'm gonna take the time to rant. I can honestly say that every year after 2021 was a failure. Every single year, Josh Allen is alive and breathing and wearing a Bills uniform was and still is Super Bowl or bust. I absolutely hate it when fans and media pundits try and sugarcoat playoff losses because guess what? Josh Allen isn't getting any younger. He turns 30 in May, and every single year we don't win a Super Bowl with Allen is a failure. And the fact that he hasn't won yet, somebody had to pay for that. I honestly want to know, if you don't like the fact that the Bills fired Sean McDermott, what did you want them to do? If you blame the loss on Denver on Josh Allen turning the ball over 4 times, which is totally reasonable, and Allen is certainly not blameless on the loss, but what did you want them to do? Get rid of Josh Allen? Hell no. If you want to blame the loss on Joe Brady, guess what? He's probably gone anyway, so there goes that. If you want to blame it on Brandon Beane, oh, you just wait, I'll get to that. But Sean McDermott has made the playoffs 7 times with Allen and had a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl in at least 4 of those runs, depending on how good or bad you felt about those teams. 2021, he blew his shot in 13 seconds. 2023, he calls a damn fake punt to Damar Hamlin that thankfully didn't result in any points. But Bass misses a potentially game tying kick with a minute 44 on the clock. But let's be honest, Bass missing that kick just prevented Mahomes from having another game winning drive against the Bills. 2024, he decides to go for 2 all the time. And 2025, Josh Allen turned the ball over 4 times and still put this team in a position to win. And the defense gives up a touchdown while up 4 when all they had to do was keep him out of the end zone. Sean McDermott has had 3 offensive coordinators in Brian Daboll, Ken Dorsey, and Joe Brady. He's had all three defensive coordinators as well: Leslie Frazier, Bobby Babich, and himself. And do you want to know what all of those guys have in common? Sean McDermott appointed all of them. I've seen people on social media who defend Sean McDermott by saying they should have kept him and hired a new offensive coordinator, and some say they should have hired a new defensive coordinator. Sean McDermott had the chance to hire a defensive coordinator in 2024, and he appointed his own guy in Bobby Babich, and it took him a year before McDermott took back play calling duties. As for hiring a new C, I would have been fine if they kept McDermott and hired a new offensive coordinator, but just ask yourself, was our offense ever the problem? Was it the OCs who were responsible for giving up over 5 yards per carry? Was it the OCs who couldn't get a stop with 13 seconds left? Was it the OCs who gave up a touchdown while up four with a minute left to go in Denver? How much can adding a new OC raise the ceiling of this Bills team? Don't get me wrong, Joe Brady, not perfect. Ken Dorsey, terrible. Brian Daboll had his flaws, but hiring a new OC would be like putting a band aid over a cut on your arm while both your legs are broken and saying you'll be able to walk it off. Like, no, both your legs are broken. Deal with that. I know there was some intriguing options out there for what could have been a potential offensive coordinator, but would the fourth time really be the charm? I could definitely keep going off about Sean McDermott, but it's time to do my due diligence and put Brandon Beane on blast. If you think Brandon Beane should have been fired right alongside Sean McDermott, I don't blame you. And honestly, I think he should have been fired right alongside the guy who brought him in. Brandon Beane has been just as much of an obstacle for Josh Allen reaching a Super Bowl as Sean McDermott was. And unfortunately, I don't have a good reason as to why he's not only safe, but why he got promoted. Now, there is a chance that after the draft, the Bills will hire a new general manager and Brandon Beane will only be the president of football operations, but we'll have to wait and see. Brandon Beane's woes as a general manager are being brought to the forefront after the firing of McDermott, and he deserves all the heat he's getting. His drafting has been subpar. Some of his free agent signings that we won't get into have been downright horrendous and a waste of millions of dollars. It's hard to really know who called the shots on offseason acquisitions and players drafted, but if we're going to blame Sean McDermott for the product on the field that got him fired, then it's fair to blame Brandon Beane for the off field moves and acquisitions that somehow got him promoted? With McDermott gone, now the fans are rightfully putting the pressure on Brandon Beane because even though he's safe from firing as the president of football operations, he's most certainly not safe from fan scrutiny. Beane has to nail this hiring process. He has to nail the free agency and he has to nail this upcoming draft because if he doesn't, he may not be able to be fired, but he doesn't have a meat shield of a head coach for fans to blame. It's time for the Bills to get aggressive. Comfort is the enemy of growth, and the Bills have to take risks and get outside their comfort zone in order to push this team to a Super Bowl. Sean McDermott was a good coach, but it's time to find a different coach and hopefully the right coach. As for who that coach might be, honestly don't know. My initial guess would be an offensive minded head coach, maybe like Clint Kubiak from Seattle or Davis Webb from Denver, who was formerly a Buffalo Bills backup quarterback. But I wouldn't be surprised if they got a defensive minded coach who runs a similar system to McDermott, so that way they don't have to undergo a huge roster transformation with limited cap flexibility. My only problem with hiring a defensive coach is that whatever offensive coordinator he brings with him will be gone in 2 years no matter what. Either he sucks and he's fired, or the more likely outcome is Josh Allen will make him look 10 times better than he actually is, and he gets a head coaching job elsewhere, like what's about to happen with Joe Brady. We don't know how many years left of prime MVP Allen we have, and let's just say we have 5 more years of this version of Allen. At the rate Allen's been going at, that's at least 2 more OCs the Bills will go through, and that's just not fair to Allen when all the other quarterbacks he's competing with have the same play callers year in and year out. If you go back and look at the most recent Super Bowl winners, they all have either that offensive minded head coach or a set of top coordinators. The Eagles last season had Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, who were unarguably two of the best coordinators of that year. And we saw what happened to the Eagles without Kellen Moore. The Chiefs obviously had Andy Reid alongside one of the best defensive coordinators, Steven Spagnuolo. The Rams had McVay and also had Raheem Morris as their DC. And say what you will about Morris as a head coach, but he was still a very good coordinator. The same can be said with the Bucks, who had Bruce Arians as their head coach and Todd Bowles, who may not be a great head coach, and I'm surprised he wasn't fired, but he was a very effective defensive coordinator. It's clear that the most effective path to a championship is to either have A, an offensive minded head coach to pair with an elite quarterback, or B, two really good coordinators. I don't know who the Bills' next head coach will be, but whoever it is, it needs to be reiterated that as long as Josh Allen is alive and well and wearing a Bills uniform, it's Super Bowl or bust. If the Bills fired Sean McDermott, only for this to be the same situation we're in next offseason after losing in the divisional round, then we as fans have to riot because by firing Sean McDermott on top of promoting Brandon Beane, the Buffalo Bills ownership is saying that Bean has built a Super Bowl caliber roster and it was coaching that was holding them back. I think the best way to end this video is just thanking Sean McDermott. My dad passed a lot of things down to me, like my sense of right and wrong, my love for sports, but most importantly, my crippling obsession with the Buffalo Bills that makes it so this stupid team dictates my mood any given week. My early years of Bills fans were nothing like they are today. I remember being so excited to watch Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fred Johnson, Stevie Johnson. I remember when the Bills drafted EJ Manuel 16th overall and thinking, this is the guy that's going to bring us to the playoffs. Heck, I remember Kyle Orton, Jeff Toole, Thad Lewis, Trent Edwards. Heck, my family older than me remembers JP Lossman. Everything changed when the Bills hired Sean McDermott. Yeah, he did start Nathan Peterman, but I choose to forget that ever happened. McDermott changed the trajectory of this franchise from that of having a 9-7 ceiling to an actual Super Bowl contender, and he deserves his credit for the work he did here in Buffalo. To teams like Cleveland, Arizona, Las Vegas, teams that need someone to come in and change the culture and build a winning football team, Sean McDermott is your guy. As for Brandon Beane, the pressure is on. Josh Allen needs better weapons and a defense that can get a stop when it matters. I don't care about your cap problems or your fiscal responsibility. You brought this on yourself. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below and let me know who you want the next Bills head coach to be. Thank you.